overheating due to poor conditions, and oxygen levels are declining in rivers. As rivers heat, the amount of available dissolved oxygen in the water decreases. As a result, animals who rely on oxygen in the water are starting to suffer or die off.
Today we will be talking about these issues, why they happen, and what we can do to fix the problem.
Dissolved oxygen is the amount of oxygen in a body of water. It is necessary for all aquatic organisms to breathe. The waters with the correct amount of dissolved oxygen are capable of holding and supporting the most aquatic species. Oxygen gets into water in several ways. One such way is when oxygen from the atmosphere dissolves and mixes into the water's surface. This oxygen sometimes gets trapped by churning water. The faster the water moves, the more chance of dissolved oxygen, and more oxygen is getting trapped. The resulting phenomenon is sometimes called whitewater. Oxygen can also get into the water by algae and other underwater grasses releasing it during photosynthesis, or air being released from pockets in the ground in dead organisms. The oxygen can be removed from the water by the respiration of aquatic organisms and the shape of the riverbed. If the floor has dips, rises, or pockets, the air inside may be trapped in oxygen. If the water reaches a higher temperature, that too can affect the amount of dissolved oxygen in the river.
Because colder water can hold more oxygen, the fluctuation in temperature of the river controls the amount of dissolved oxygen in said river. Hotter water has faster moving atoms, allowing more oxygen to escape. As a result, colder water holds more oxygen.
There are many circumstances influencing the temperature of the water. The temperature of the air affects the water because it cools or heats the top of the river. Another factor is the riparian shading next to the river. Urban development removes trees and other plants and shrubs next to the edge of the water. This affects the water temperature because the previous shade that protected the river from the sun dissipates, heating the water as it now resides in direct sunlight. Polluted groundwater, stormwater, and urban runoff also affect the river, as they kill or injure the plants, reducing the amount of oxygen released by underwater plants and algae. Another element affecting the water from direct water temperature is the cloudiness of the water or air. The cloudiness protects the water from direct sunlight, cooling it, which allows for more oxygen in the river. Although too much temperature change is bad for the organisms in the river, the water temperature usually fluctuates with the time of day and season. For example, hotter at midday and colder at midnight.
Water temperature is measured simply by putting a thermometer in the water. Measuring the oxygen is slightly more complicated. There are several ways in which oxygen levels are measured. Sample water is collected, put in a jar to keep outside oxygen from contaminating the water sample. Manganese sulfate is added to the water. After that, alkali iodide azide is added. Mixed together well, and if oxygen is present, a cloud of brownish orange will appear. Add sulfuric acid to dissolve the cloud. Then add starch into the mix until a blue color forms. The amount of starch indicates how much oxygen there is.
Each aquatic species tolerates a specific variation in water temperature. The water temperature that is best for aquatic organisms, plants and animals, is between 55 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. For this temperature of plant life, bugs such as stonefly nymphs, mayfly nymphs, caddisflies, water beetles, and water spiders, as well as fish such as salmon and trout. Water with a temperature of fewer than 55 degrees has much fewer organisms. Anything greater than 68 degrees has less native fish, plants, and bugs. If we let the rivers heat up, invasive species will survive, and the native organisms will die.
The current status is unacceptable, as the effects of global warming upon the bodies of water and earth will soon be irreversible. Due to the heating of the environment caused by global warming, the dissolved oxygen in each body of water is depleted and is continuing to decrease exponentially. The many animals and plants in bodies of water are a vital part of the ecosystem. Not only do they provide food for many animals, but aquatic plants produce nearly 70% of the oxygen in the air. The destruction of these will be devastating.
The riparian wildlife where trees and shrubs grow shade the water from the sun, causing the temperature to decrease and allowing for more dissolved oxygen. There are fewer trees by the river because of urban development on the banks of rivers. That lessens the amount of shrubbery which would usually shade the river, so instead the rivers are heated. If more people volunteered or donated to plant trees, there would be more shade to cool the water, increasing the amount of dissolved oxygen. People could also use their car less so as to reduce the effects of global warming upon our environment.
Humans created this issue because we removed riparian wildlife, dumped toxic waste and chemicals into our rivers, and caused global warming. Global warming is making dissolved oxygen decrease, and aquatic animals and plants will die because they will suffocate. Some species have already died or decreased in numbers. This could majorly affect us. Fish and bugs will die, and because they are a major part of our ecosystem, many other animals will suffer. We won't have many of the animals we like to eat, and that supplies with nutrition. Although 80% of Colorado's population lives on the east side of the Rocky Mountains, 80% of the water is on the west side. Huge tunnels and water ducts take the water from the west side where cities like Denver are, taking the water we need to support a healthy ecosystem on this side.
Even though the amount of dissolved oxygen in our rivers are decreasing, we can still stop the effects we've implemented.
Plant trees next to the river.
Use your car less.
And donate to river-related nonprofits.
Thank you. Questions?
Have you guys had an opportunity to plant some trees with your school? Or?
Not with our school, but I can see with you.
Same here.
You know, some of what you're talking about is pretty dire, and I'm wondering what you guys, as you're researching this and learning more about climate change and human impacts on climate change and what's happening in the water bodies, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, research shows that I think by around 2050, the effects of global warming will be irreversible.
Depending on the study you read.
Yeah. So we have to stop it by then.
I mean, water is really the basis of everything, all life. So what we drink, if that is suddenly undrinkable, it's going to get bad very fast. And some rivers and lakes are already starting to require aid. One lake, I think it's in Ohio, is fully depleted of oxygen, and
So they pump
there's a
oxygen.
man-made pump putting oxygen into the river. So this is the call to action. We need to act.
Have you had an opportunity to test temperature and dissolved oxygen in our local rivers or streams or review data?
The fifth grade at our school does this thing for River Watch, and they test the temperature, dissolved oxygen, and all that stuff of the local river by our school. And so we had a chance to go and look at what they did.
Yeah, so we use that, those numbers to kind of